Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Danny Kelly. I am a 61-year-old trans man who lives in Toronto, Canada. I started transitioning when I was 56. That was 2020. And yeah, so it's been the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I wish I could have done it 150 years ago, but life is what it is. So I'm just grateful that I am able to do it in my lifetime, and it is literally the best thing I've ever done in my life. So,
Can you tell me more about details of your transitioning? How have you started and when was it?
um, I started. Well, the reason I started even seriously thinking about actually transitioning was because I hit a crisis point in my life. It's a long story, but just in a nutshell, I lost two brothers and a sister in a very short amount of time, like 18 months. So it really literally knocked me on my ass. None of it was expected. So I left my job, and I took some time off to try to get myself together. And my doctor referred me to a psychiatrist. And so in talking with the psychiatrist, who was queer, she was a lesbian. She is a lesbian. She was very, very good she recognized, like, just in me talking, she's like, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but she basically said, do you ever think of yourself as a man, as a trans man? Is this something you've ever thought about? And I just jumped all over. I said, yeah, but I don't know how, and I don't know the words. But yes, I've always thought I was a boy. Like, I always felt like I was a boy. I acted like I was a boy until I was 5, and I was unceremoniously told, you're not a boy, you're a girl, smarten up. And like, this was like the late 60s. So I was terrified. And so from that point on, I knew. So at 5, I knew I had to hide who I was. And I did a very good job of it, I think, as much as I could. Whatever. So in talking with the psychiatrist, she just gently guided me through this and got me to the point where she was like, this is really possible and it's really okay. And if you want this, you can have it. And I was just like, whoa, man, back off. But then once we kept going, I was like, yes, I want that. So then she got me testosterone, and it just went from there. So it was just something really amazing came out of something really difficult and life-changing. And it turned out to be life-changing on so many levels. So,
What year was it? When did it happen?
So I started seeing her in 2018, and then I transitioned in April and started taking testosterone in April of 2020. And so from 2018 to 2020, I started talking to my family and friends about it. They were all like, Christ, yes, we kind of knew this about you. Like, do it, yes. Like, I got nothing but support, which I'm very grateful about. So, yeah, it started really happening in 2020. So.
And what about social transition? Did it match the moment of medical transition?
You meant social transition?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, honestly, because because I couldn't come out as a trans man, or felt I couldn't, I was a part of the lesbian community for, like, I don't know how, I came out when I was 22. So a lot of years, 30 some years so I 100% like identified with butch, with, back in those, like in the 80s, 90s, we still had that sort of thing. And so the actual social transition probably piece had already started a long time ago. Like I totally identified with maleness, with men, like that kind of thing. But I was very lucky to be involved, and I also had this inspired. I did not adopt toxic masculinity on any level. It repulsed me. It absolutely repulsed me. And I saw it in a lot of other lesbians, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on. So anyways, when I started talking to my family and friends starting in 2018, a lot of the social transitioning had already happened. So it was just a matter, the biggest thing for me that I struggled with in terms of, I felt like I was imposing on people was to change my name and to ask people to change their pronouns. And I took a lot of that on. I think that's part of growing up in a female existence where you're taught to take that on. So, even though I was a man, I was brought up as a female, and we'll get into that later, but it's like, I think that's one of the connecting points between trans men and trans women. It's like we both bump into misogyny in such a way, right? So that was the biggest piece for me, was asking people around me to refer to me as Danny and he, him. I felt like I was imposing and I didn't have the right. And so, that just took me a while to get over that. And people were like, yeah, sure, no problem. I still do have people that forget, people that have known me for years and years and years. And I'm now at the point where I'm like, okay, you know what? It's been 5 years. You need to just do this. Like, it's possible. So that was probably the biggest social or whatever struggle piece I had, was asking people to change, use a different name and a different pronoun. So.
You've mentioned your family and friends. Can you tell me more about their reaction, how they reacted?
Well, like I said, I don't think anybody in my life was surprised. I think people had thought that once, I mean, I grew up in a very small town. So, but I was lucky that my family and friends had a certain level of awareness. So I think they realized that this was definitely a possibility, that I could be a trans man. And I had a friend who's been a friend of mine since I was 12, gently, and sometimes not so gently, just say, just do it. Like, that's what I mean by not so gently. She didn't kind of comprehend the bigger piece of what that meant, but her point was well taken. Like, just can do it, man. Like, that's who you are, then be who you are. So I was, I was just very lucky. I'm the youngest of the 8, and we're a pretty progressive family. There was a lot of age difference between the oldest and the youngest. So when I was growing up, I was surrounded by these really cool, like, hippie adults who listened to awesome music and smoked drugs, but they were really aware socially, whatever. So I did not get one bit of resistance from my family, which I realize is just like, I was very, very grateful for. So
it wasn't something new for you and for them. You already knew who are trans people and what is transitioning.
Yeah, I think we all had a level of awareness. Like, my problem, I think, not, problem in terms of allowing myself to transition, with my stumbling block was I saw a lot of women, like trans women, in the community, because I was always involved in the queer community. And I saw a lot of trans women, but I rarely saw any trans men. And so I just didn't think it was possible. I just didn't, I didn't have enough, even though the community and people that I hung out with were really progressive and aware, that piece, talking about trans people, never came up very often, which is, I think, whatever. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at that too deeply as to why that would be, because literally, like I said, we were very progressive people. So it just never felt like an option. So, but it's certainly something that crossed people in my life. It crossed their minds. And so I was the one holding it back. I was the one with the resistance, because it's like that thing. You create these things that keep you safe, but then letting them down as you get older, because they're not keeping you safe. They become a kind of a detriment. So me holding on to keeping myself safe to not let people know who I really was, in the end, I had to get that taken down by a few people. A few people had to say to me, no, it's really okay. It's really okay to be who you are. And I resisted that. It's weird.
When you've transitioned, have you met any discrimination?
I wouldn't say really, really. Well, the biggest piece of transit or discrimination, obviously, and I'm sure you experiences when I started my YouTube and Instagram and TikTok channels and started putting stuff out there and saying, yeah, I'm trans man, this is blah, blah, blah. Well, I work with this young woman she helps me, she does my editing and whatever, because I never would have been able to do this. Being a 61-year-old, absolute, like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Like, that's how out of my realm of reality this stuff was. So she's been helping me. And it was really funny because, of course, I expected the backlash. I just didn't really expect how much and how, like, nasty it would be. But immediately I got lots of comments like, you're this, you're a pedophile, you're just like the usual nonsense. And the woman that I work with, she was like, holy shit, man, I've never seen anything like this. And she didn't want to say that to me at first because she didn't want to, but once I said to her, yeah, that was pretty brutal. I've never seen anything like this. She said, I thought I'd gotten some bad stuff. She said, this is brutal. So, I mean, there's that. Just in my everyday life, though, I have not really had anything in my face, which I'm grateful for. But until I started having facial hair, I still went into women's washrooms in public because I just I didn't have what it was going to take to go into a men's washroom. And we were still wearing masks and stuff, so it just wasn't that big of a deal. It just really wasn't. But once I started having facial hair, then I started going into men's washrooms. And that's when I started to get really afraid. Just the fact of going into a men's washroom, that alone is just like, whoa, a little frightening, right? But just the reaction and so far I have not had any like, get the fuck out of here, what the fuck? Nobody's, and I don't know I'm not sure if that means that I'm passing. They just started like, who's this short dude? Or if men in washrooms just really don't give a fuck. I don't know what it is, but I have been lucky that I have not had in the outside world too much resistance or brutal comments or, fuck you or anything like that. So far.
Let me mention the topic of passing. For trans women, it's a pretty painful thing and pretty expensive one.
Yeah.
As you can see, investments are incredible. Surgeries, fillers, extensions, lashes, makeup, everything. What about trans men?
I would say it's not even on the same planet. Like my experience, I'm not that I speak on behalf of all trans men, but my experience and watching other trans men and being on chat groups and stuff with other trans men, facial hair is obviously the biggest one. A lot of us do like to develop muscles. So, gym membership, going to the gym is absolutely essential for me, but I do not across the board think that's the only way you can be a trans man. That's absolutely not. And I don't like, I want to make sure I always qualify that when I say that. For me, being physical, being athletic has been my savior. Like playing in sports got me through times growing up. So it's always been something that I've gravitated to keep my mind as well as my body, whatever. But now it's like, yeah, I like to feel that I have muscles and that, it makes me feel like I'm a man. So not that is the only way to define being a man. But anyways, it's just one piece. So I would say facial hair is huge and the voice, our voice changing. I mean, it took forever for me. And even still, I mean, my voice is not especially deep, but it's deep enough. And I kind of got over that. It's like, you know what? In the big scheme of things, it is what it is. And I'm just grateful for what I have. I really am. So I don't think it's nearly as trans men don't have nearly the same kind of pressures. I don't think. I just don't. I think maybe some trans men might feel a need to get their voice. I don't even know if there are surgeries for trans men to get your voice deeper. I assume there are, but it's not something I hear a lot about in groups or I don't hear a lot of trans men talking about it. It's also a financial thing, I think. I don't even know how expensive it is, but I imagine it is not cheap. So that's a huge burden. So the pressure is not, I don't think, is nearly as heavy on us as it is on trans women. I really feel that. I feel trans women carry a lot of that pressure and that expectation, and I believe it must feel very, very difficult. So,
Do you have any explanation for this?
well, I think it's all tied to misogyny. I really do. Not that trans women wanting to look beautiful is, hey, who doesn't want to look beautiful? Everybody wants to look beautiful. Everybody wants to look attractive. Everybody. But this is different. This is like, if I believe that as soon as you transition being a trans woman, you land in the world of misogyny, and it is fucking brutal. And all these, I mean, I haven't investigated this in depth, but my perceptions living the life I've lived and understanding misogyny up close and personal myself, I just feel like it's instant. As soon as you start to transition as a trans woman, the expectations are, if you don't look a certain way, even if you do, you're still going to get misogyny. But if you don't, if there's I don't even like the word to use, if there's a way in, like any kind of, oh, you don't look woman enough, you're not, whatever the nonsense argument is, then it gives people misogynist mother. Sorry, I'm a swearer. I'm a big swearer. I won't swear. I'll try not to. So I just think it gives an excuse for hate. It's just an excuse for hate, and to, you don't have to look a certain way. You shouldn't have to look a certain way. Trans men shouldn't have to look. That's what I mean by, a lot of us did buy into that whole nonsense. You have to have muscle, and you have to. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can look any way you want and still be a trans man. You don't have to take, hormones if you don't want to, and you could still identify as a But with trans women, it feels like, the pressure is 150% higher. And if you do choose to not, do those things, I think your life experience, I'm imagining, is exponentially more difficult and less safe. I mean, there's the safety element, obviously, here too, right? So, yeah.
I'm so happy you've mentioned the topic of misogyny. I also have a friend of mine, he's trans man. He's 28 years old. And the first topic we've discussed with him was misogyny. And we're literally on the same page. He knows what it feels like. Right. Yeah.
That's, I think, the biggest, I would say for the most part, at least what I've experienced, is that why trans men and trans women are so protective of one another. And I'm not saying across the board, like without except, but a lot of what I see is because we do both experience misogyny, and we understand what that experience is like. And it's a made up hatred. It's just made up. And yes, and watching trans women, as soon as they come out, and it's so joyful and whatever, and then boom, it's like you land into this, holy, what the fuck? It's just this automatic, you identify as a woman, well, here you go. How do you like them apples? Like, it's just arbitrary hatred. And so, yes, I do. And I think, we both walk into this realm, like trans men and trans women, with that shared experience, and trans men, I mean, I have to be, I have to do things like when I'm online at the very beginning, once I change my name, and like, I'm a really touchy-feely kind of, I'm like, oh, hearts and dogs and little kids, yay, sweet, sweet, sweet. And then I'm like, you're a man, like, you're presenting it as a man. And, for 56 years, I was like, no, you can't be a man. So I have to be very careful what I say online because it can come across as really creepy, So just things like that, but that's very different. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I think that that's why I feel like trans men are very protective of trans women and understand the hatred and the misogyny that trans women just automatically parachute into as soon as they, own who they are. And I think that's part of the reason why, is because we understand. We get it. We lived it. So,
In my opinion, misogyny is a product of patriarchal
very.
world. But you've entered this world. How does it feel for you?
You know what? I honestly, I've only really been conscious because I think I lived so long as who I was until 56 years, which was I'm a trans man, but I have to hide it. So I still go through that lens. So sometimes when things happen and it feels like that was easy, I remember, oh, they're relating to me as a man now. So I bump into it like that. But it's only every now and then because I'm so in my own little world and I'm like, but I'm also grateful for that. Like, I'm grateful that I don't have, and in terms of benefits, yes, I do. I'm in the process of trying to find a job right now. So I'm very conscious of the fact that I'm putting a man's name on an application. And do I think that gives me an advantage? 100% I think it gives me an advantage. And it's, I don't know that. I haven't quantified it, whatever. But I definitely think that seeing a man's name on any kind of application, people just don't subconsciously. They don't even think about it like, oh yeah, he's valued more than, my old name would have been. So I don't think I've run into it. Like, I still haven't got a job and I've been trying for 6 months. So I still don't think it's, I haven't been as conscious and noticed it huge, but I definitely noticed it. Yeah. And it feels, it feels good and sad at the same time because it just reminds me of why this is happening. And the reason it's happening is because people, don't, they treat women so much different. And so I don't go around with, I'm like, okay, yeah, I noticed that, but I'm not, unless, it's like, yes, why can't you just be like, this is who you are. It's no big deal. So.
But obviously, those benefits are not the main reason why you've transitioned. Like, we hear nowadays rhetorics that trans women transitioned just to wear feminine clothes or enter female bathrooms. The reason is dysphoria. Can you tell me more how it felt for you?
Yeah, I mean, dysphoria was definitely my biggest struggle throughout all the years that I was playing for Team Lesbianic. And, it just, in my existence, I don't like to use the word hate, but I did not feel comfortable in my body. I did not like having breasts. I despised having breasts. I did everything I could to hide who I was. I'd wear layers, the typical, see a lot of lesbians, especially back in the day when I was living in that world. It was like layers and just, butch and whatever. So yeah, and I mean, it was just uncomfortable all the time. Like that piece, dysphoria, was always there. That piece I could not, find a place for. That was one thing I could not find a place to make it okay. It was always not okay. And the fact that I couldn't talk about it or I didn't have the language and all of my partners were very, they probably could have heard that, but I just could not talk about it. It was shameful for me. It was like, I carried around a lot of shame. I carried around a lot of self-hate, and secrecy, right? And all those things are never good, right? And they weren't good. It didn't feel good. it robbed me. I feel like dysphoria robbed me of a lot, because dysphoria keeps you quiet, right? It makes you less of who you are because you don't want to. At least I didn't. I mean, I'm a shy person by nature, but I know this shame and this dysfunction kept me smaller and kept me less of who I really am. And I mean, I know that because I see now I see parts of me coming out that are just like, wow, that's awesome. I wish I could have done that when I was in my 20s and 30s, So dysphoria was definitely my biggest struggle. It's a terrible thing. It really is.
Is it still present?
Not like I thought it would be. If I would have come out in my 20s, it would have been like, I probably would have been like, I have to have bottom surgery. Like I would have been, it's not even a question. I have to have it all. Now I'm like, you know what? Top surgery really, really gave me something. Like it just, it just literally opened up my world. I instantly felt like I was in my body. I was happy in my body. And for a lot of reasons, being 61 also plays into that, I think. And age does something to you that you can't explain unless you're old. And, I hear people, everything changes. And it really fucking does. Your outlook on life really does change when you start getting older. And I had to factor in, like, did I think about, whatever, bottom surgery? Of course. But it's like, okay, that's a surgery, another surgery. So there's risks. It's probably going to cost. And honestly, how do I feel in my body? I feel I don't need it. I really don't. I'm quite happy with the way my body is. It's all working. And I see examples of it too. Like, I don't know people's situations around and I don't want to, and people should not have to disclose unless they want to talk about it. But I see so many examples of, trans women and trans men in relationships. And it's not about, once you own who you are, that's the bigger piece to me. It's like whatever else, whatever. It's to me, it just puts in the spotlight how gross we've become as a society on body parts. And, and that's the gross piece that's getting exploited in this whole trans people in Washington, trans women in Washington. That's the whole piece that's being exploited. It's assumptions. It's just gross, focused on body parts. Yeah. So for me, having top surgery has just been the best thing that ever happened. And be honest to God, literally, it's just like, I feel so much like I'm me now. So.
Going back to dysphoria, do you remember the moment when you started experiencing it? Was it childhood, teenage years?
It was childhood. So my first bump into what like I told you, was when I was 5. It was in kindergarten, and my teacher said, you play with the girls' toys, not the boys' toys. You're a girl, not a boy. And then the next thing I bumped into, we used to play in my small town. One of the things we used to do during the summer, on summer holidays, was every day we'd go down to the park. So I go down to the park with my brothers and sisters, my friends, whatever. And I literally would run around with my top off all the time. Like, that was just such a natural state for me. And I had an adult come up and shame me, like just brutally shame me, tell me, and like literally there was nothing. I was like 9. There was nothing not that it shouldn't be, blah, blah, blah. But this person, I'm 100% certain it was a man, came up and just shamed me. You should be wearing a top. You're a girl. What is wrong with you? Who are you here with? Like, just brutal, right? And so that's when the dysphoria really started for me. It was like, I was made aware, you're a girl, you have breasts, and they are a source of shame. And then just got bigger because I had no natural relationship to these breasts. It's like, this doesn't feel like what I am. And so that's when it started for me. It was just like very young. And it was always adults that shamed me. And they, as adults do, they shame children, right? And that's part of the problem. Adults need to check their shit, man. Their relationship to children. It's like, oh my God. I can't imagine saying something like that to an 8 or 9-year-old. Like, I literally can't. It boggles my mind, some of the experiences that we all grow up with. And it's just like, whoa. So that's when the dysphoria really started for me. When I was 8 or 9, someone shamed me being that I'm a girl and a breast, so I should cover up. Okay. So.
Have you ever felt guilt because of it? Because you're different?
Oh, yeah.
Meeting your expectations?
Yeah. Yeah. Guilt, shame. Guilt because I was hiding. I felt like I was hiding from everybody. I felt like I was a freak. Literally. Like, I didn't think anybody else had this experience. I thought that, is this just me? Especially when I was very young, I thought, this has got to be just me. There's something really wrong with just me. And once you get older, you start, okay. So once maybe late teens, early 20s, I started to realize, okay, maybe it's not just me. But, it's already, the basis has already started, right? Of shame and guilt and like, I'm a freak. Okay. So, yeah, that always started. Guilt and shame, just started very, very young for me, unfortunately. But, yeah.
Have you tried coping with this? Did you have any coping strategies?
I would say, like I said, when I was growing up, I played sports because, to me, I knew from a very young age that I had athletic abilities. I could run really fast. I used to win races all the time. So I was like, okay, this is something I can do. And so I literally was involved in sports all the time in my growing up. And that, to me, saved that gave me, it not only, it, right. I can't even explain the physicality of it. That gave me some sense of owning my body and liking my body, but more the mental health piece. The exercise helps with stress, helps keeping you calmer. It makes you feel like you've accomplished something. That's why sports, that's why denying, trans girls access to sports is just, it breaks my heart on every fucking level. But it's like, being involved in sports when you're young is a social thing. It has so many benefits, not just the actual sport itself. It's the bigger picture, being involved in something, feeling like you belong to something. So I got all of that from being involved in sports. And I know that was my saving grace. Otherwise, I don't know. I probably would have, who knows? I don't know what I would have done with the feelings and the shame. Sports saved me, literally. Being involved in sports teams and stuff growing up saved my life, literally. So.
And you're still doing sports?
I am. I spent my life being involved in sports teams, but in the last, I'd say, 15 years, it's just been strictly going to the gym and that. But I really, really enjoy that. I love it. So, yeah, it gives me purpose, and it brings back so much to my life. And I have a big surprise. Anxiety and depression was a big part of my makeup. And I know that like I said, growing up, that was the only thing that kept it in check. I wasn't aware of being extremely anxious and then from struggling with depression. I wasn't aware of it. I thought, this is who I am. It wasn't actually until probably around 2011 that I just really became aware of how much anxiety and depression I really had. But I know probably the reason I didn't have to really jump into it too much was because I had sports. So I had an outlet. So, yeah. I also developed some pretty unhealthy coping mechanisms. Like I drank too much in points in my life and stayed in bad relationships too long, and, you know, thinking that I'll never get that, you know, I'll never get another partner, whatever. Just self-doubt and just not believing in myself. So it, you know, but sports, honestly, physicality stuff has always been the thing that helps to keep me between the boards kind of deal.
Have you ever tried suppressing those feelings that you're a man?
Well, yeah, that's pretty much what I did my entire life until I came out. So yes, yeah.
What have you done to suppress it?
Tried not to think about it whenever it would come up. Yeah, just try not to spend too much time thinking about it. I mean, like I said, I developed some unhealthy habits, and just generally just didn't feel good. And, you know, I think probably developed the anxiety and depression piece out of that because I was denying a ginormous part of who I was. So, yeah, I mean, I just denied it. I just didn't think about it. Whenever it would come up, and I mean, it would come up a lot because, like I said, the physicality, the dysphoria was there all the time. And it, you know, just, yeah. So it just was this constant pushing down, which clearly is not healthy.
Have you met at this point, this moment, when your egg is cracked? When you realized you're trans and you need to transition?
I think as I probably started really coming out for me in my 30s, because by then I was seeing that there was trans men like in my actual community, and they were transitioning and they were being very vocal about it, which was awesome. But then so I'd say it started to crack, but it didn't fully crack because I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to say that's me. I still was really held back by shame. Um, and even though I was seeing an example of it, I still felt like, no, there's still something wrong with me. There's still, you know, whatever. I didn't articulate it too much. The shame was there, and it was so entrenched with who I was that it just wouldn't let me. Like I said earlier, how we develop things to keep us safe, and then they become hindrance to us, right? They stop us from doing good things. And I think the safety things that I developed in the end probably caused me to stay in this situation longer than I probably needed to. So it took a major crisis, which was, you know, to my brothers and my sister dying, to make me hit a point where I was like, you know what? It's not fucking worth it anymore. Like, what am I, why am I hiding? What the fuck? Like, so that would have been, I guess, my crashing point.
And let's talk about the differences in countries. Were there any legal roadblocks in Canada that you've met?
Stuff here in Canada, even though it's extremely bureaucratic, takes way too long. The forms are unnecessarily complicated, and the language is unnecessarily unreachable by a lot of people. A lot of people don't even understand what they're reading. It just, you know, could be so much simpler. But I think if you get help here in Canada, yes, the systems are there for you to do what you need to do to change your pronouns, to change your name, all that stuff. But it's still difficult. It's still hard. And that's why I did a video just basically giving a list of a lot of agencies that I tell people, look, as soon as you come out as transitioning and you want to get top cert, like, we can get it paid for here in Canada, but it literally takes about a year it takes about 3 months to get the paperwork done. because it's very complicated and unnecessarily so. And you have to get your doctor, obviously, your doctor, psychiatrist, whatever involved. But it's doable and it's there. So I feel very blessed living in Canada. So,
Danny, let's talk about social media.
okay.
You're a public person. You have YouTube, you have Instagram, you have TikTok.
Yes.
Can you tell me the reason why? Why are you doing this?
Because I feel like there's always been a part of me that like wanted to do this kind of thing, but I was so trapped and shy and kept myself so tightly, whatever, that I didn't let that piece out. So that's part of it. But the biggest part that really got me going was when I was first transitioning and trying to get as much information. Like once I do stuff, I'm like, I want all the information on the planet. I want it all. So when I went looking, I could not, number one, I couldn't find a lot about older people transitioning, specifically older trans men. I could not find hardly anything. But then I also thought, okay, even though I'm transitioning late and I'm new to transitioning, I have a lot of experience in life that I learned a lot of it the hard way that I feel like I can offer, especially to young, like my heart literally breaks for young trans people right now because of the bullshit that the world is throwing at them. And, we remember, I'm sure, as children, how that must just be like, oh my God. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do this. Even though it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying for me, I just thought I want to be able to be just a face on the internet, whatever, for other trans people, older trans people, specifically trans men, but older trans people. And then I also want to try to, I don't know, offer something if I can for young trans people, because I want to counter the message. No, you're not all those things that they're saying. You are not. Don't listen to them. It's lies, and this is why it's lies. And I try to explain it in really simple terms that they're just using this as a prop. They have no soul. Like the fact that they'll go after young trans people, young people who are already prone to, I don't want to use the word because probably shouldn't, but you know what I'm saying, tendencies that are like not good for self, taking it out on yourself. So the fact that these monsters do this just breaks my heart. So I wanted to try to do that. So I like to use humor as an access point because I find that people are more inclined to stop and go, okay, this is not so, if there's a little bit of humor involved. So it's just been I absolutely love it. It's literally tapped into something that I know I've always wanted to do, but I was just so crippled by shyness and shame, whatever, that now having this has just been one of the best things for me. Honestly, it really has. So I'm grateful for having the guts to actually try it, because I never thought I'd ever do anything like this. Never. So that was kind of my reasons why.
Have you become more social after transitioning?
I'm a weird combination. I'm shy, but once I make a connection, it's a really good connection, and then I start to show who I really am. But yes, now since I've transitioned, I'm less shy. I'm less hindered by. I think it's also because I've done a ton of work on my own messages and the tapes that go on in my head. I learned how to interrupt them. No, you're not. All these things that you're telling yourself for years and years. So I think from a whole lot of work and yes, transitioning and being who I really am, I'm definitely a much more, I take risks that I never used to take. I will engage in conversations that I never used to engage in. I'll be the one initiating some kind of social interaction, which is a lot of the stuff that I never used to do. So yes, I think transitioning just was like the last piece I needed to really try to come out as who I really am. And it's been so wonderful, like so rewarding. So
There is a character you've used in your Jesus. Can you tell me more? How did you come up with this idea?
probably well, I know it's because I grew up Irish Catholic. And I mean, I literally went to church every Sunday, all the high holidays. Um, and it was not an option. It was like, this is what we do as Irish Catholic people. This is what we do. Um, and I had a funny relationship with that to get through because, I mean, first of all, I can remember as a child, it was so boring. It was like hideously boring. But then I also remember that at some point I just started listening to what the sermons and everything were saying, and they were actually really good moral lessons. They were. They were like, be kind. Uh, like a lot of the readings, a lot of the stuff, if you actually listen to it, are really what I think the person who Jesus was, which I do think he existed about 2,000 years. I think that dude actually existed, but he was not, he was like, whoa, man, what the back off, man. I'm just a good dude. I'm not like, oh, poor guy. Next thing you know, he's up on a cross. But it's like, I actually listened to what they were saying and I took it all in and it gave me a moral compass. Like it really did. As much as, the Catholic religion is F up the yin yang and it's just been the Catholic Church is just whoa, gross because it was harboring so many bad men who did bad things to children. But my experience, because I had to get through it, because I had to go, was I actually listened to and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And it literally gave me this moral compass that I think is fantastic. Like, I'm very happy that I turned out to be a person that gives a shit about other people, And a lot of that was really reinforced through the church, which is weird. I mean, I didn't take all of it in, thank God, because some of it was just absolute nonsense. But the other thing about growing up Catholic, but the other thing I did, I don't know, are you Catholic? Do you know about Catholic religion, the ceremonies? Do you know? Okay, you have to go get the bread, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, that's a big deal. So you line up and you get this, and then you're supposed to go down and reflect and pray. And what I would do is I'd sit in the pew after I got the bread of His body of Jesus Christ. I would I'd pray and then sit back, and I'd literally rate girls on my hand as they were walking by and be like, oh, she's pretty, I'll give her a 2. Oh, she's pretty, I'll give her a 3. And like I would do this in the middle of church. It's like, oh my God, it's amazing I didn't burst into flames. Like, oh, this to God. So I just had such a weird, like I do recognize some of the good I got from it, but I also recognize how ridiculous religion can be, and just how I got through that just makes me laugh. And so I think there's a lot to laugh at with, and I think religion is used as such a weapon right now, right? It's just all these religious people are like, Jesus didn't want you. Well, you know what? Jesus didn't want you to hate, and that's what you're doing. So here we are, like, but it's just the hypocrisy and so yes, I think that it's just something that's so ingrained in me that I grew up with. It's so strong. It's like, yeah, I want Jesus to be like this really ridiculous character that just like is really human on so many levels and has flaws, but just wants the best for people and from people, all people, because I think that's what, if there is a Jesus, that's what they want. They don't want us putting each other down and telling, I'm better than you and you're gross and you're that. So I feel like it's a really good stepping off point. And I do think there's so much, like, it's comedy gold, honest to God. And I know I'm just starting out, so I'm still a bit awkward on stuff, but I feel like as I get more comfortable, hopefully it'll get more funny.
So religion can be fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said it.
I mean, yeah, religion's I despise how these evangelical people, especially in the States right now, are using religion to hate, and how people are falling for it. It's like, what are you talking? Like, how do you take this person seriously? They're spewing hate. Like, that's not what any religion on planet Earth was about. If you want to tie into some kind of religion, the reason we do is because it promotes kindness and helping each other out. And this is how it came out of probably survival. How are we going to survive? Well, we got to come up with some kind of idea of, is this going to help if we keep fighting each other, or being kind? Is being kind a better way to go? And it's like religion, I believe, had a lot of that at its heart, but people just perverted it, for lack of a better word, in every literally and morally and whatever sense of the word, right? So yes, it just like, are you familiar? I'm not sure how familiar you are with American politics. Are you familiar with Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's just this big transphobe. She's just not a nice person. She's just evil, and she runs around doing all these evil, mean things, and then she's, oh, well, I just love Jesus Christ, and it's like, no, actually, you don't. You don't love Jesus Christ. You don't love yourself. You don't love anything. Like, you ever watch her? She does these things, CrossFit videos, where she's doing it so hard. It's like, oh my God, you hate yourself. You're punishing yourself right now. Honest to God. But so I want to bring that front and center. So yeah, I want to bring people like that front and center and just expose their bullshit, because it is just bullshit. And I mean, they're right now, they're terrorizing the one and only trans woman who is now in the House of Representatives. They're literally terrorizing her. There's 3 other House reps, elected House reps, who are terrorizing her. Just yesterday or the day before, they literally ran into the bathroom because they thought she went into the bathroom. They ran into the bathroom after her, but it wasn't her. But it's just like, what are you doing? Like, honestly. But anyway, so I really want to try to flip that kind of stuff on its head and expose it for what it is, which is just bullying. So anyway, that was why I chose Jesus.
As you've mentioned states, your opinion about what's going on there.
It's fascism. I literally think, and I'm not just saying this, I have been saying this for a long, long time. And you have to be careful online and whatever, how you say it, because, I think they're following the leader from the 1930s. I think they're following the handbook to a letter. They're just like, check, check, check. So, and the fact that they messed around with TikTok is frightening, because they're trying to, silence voices. That to me scared the shit out of me, that they're trying to do that, and God only knows. And now that they have all their big tech boys who run these voices, who run TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, now that they have them all on side, that scares the shit out of me, because they're already manipulating our algorithms. And I got punished again yesterday because I called some homophobic dipshit. But anyways, I'm scared, because I feel like the conversations I'm hearing right now they're picking, the Republican Party is picking people to lead different departments in the government. And all the Democrats are flipping out, because all these people that they're picking are absolutely incompetent people. And they are. But it's like, you're missing the point. They're not there to lead these departments. They're there to dismantle them. They don't need to be competent. They just need to be, will you do what Donald Trump says? Yes, sir. You can lead it. And that's what's scaring me. People are missing the bigger picture here. It doesn't matter that they're incompetent. They're not there to lead. They're there to dismantle. That's what I believe. So I think I think the only saving grace we have right now in the States, though, is that can I say Germany? Back in Germany in the 30s and 40s, they were able to, the judicial system was such that they dismantled it like that. Like there was no judges, courts, it's all gone. They are not going to be able to do that in the States. And I think that's the only saving grace that we have in the world, because if the States become the fast state full on, we're in a lot of trouble. The world is in a lot of trouble. I don't think it's going to happen full on. I think there's enough safeguards. I think the judicial system in the United States is going to, at the very least, slow this down big time. But I mean, they've already started the deportations. They've already started rounding up people. It's terrifying to watch. I definitely had to curb how much I watch, and I definitely have to. I do not listen to Donald Trump talk anymore. I don't, I have to be very careful about it. But I also feel like I'm in Canada. We're right next door. I have to know what's going on. And I see the politicians here in Canada they're not all trying to, they're already mimicking everything that the States does, Canada does. Like the conservative parts of Canada does. And unfortunately, the conservative parts of Canada right now are getting a lot of popularity. So that scares me. So one of my next videos is going to be, because I'm going to take this advice myself. I did the initial changing my birth certificate. So my name is and gender is legally changed, but then I got busy with other stuff, and I haven't changed my health card and my social insurance card. So I'm getting on this because we are coming up to elections here in Canada, and I know that the guy that I think is going to wins. He is going to do the exact same thing that the States have done, which is there's only two genders, blah, 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 trans people don't exist. And they're going to start to, again, here in Canada, our judicial system will slow it down as well. Everything's going to go through the courts. So they can't just say this and then it becomes law. It doesn't work like that. So that's the only saving grace. But yeah, I'm going to start advising people here in Canada, get shit together, get together now. Because we can watch what's happening in the state and know that that's exactly what's happening for it. So it's terrifying, basically. I can zoom it.
A psychologist and maybe a public person, public figure, I receive several messages every single day from people from the United States, and they're anxious. They don't know how to navigate throughout this 4 years, at least 4.
Yes.
What advice should I give them? I mean, not legally, since they can't change passports, birth certificates, mentally and socially.
Well, I would say that, like I said, the United States judicial system is very, very strong. Now, have the Republicans tried to manipulate, and have they? Yes, they have. They put a lot of conservative judges in that system. But we're already seeing even those conservative judges are ruling against Donald Trump's stuff. Because I think a lot of judges are sitting back and seeing the bigger picture, and they realize, okay, if we go full on fast, which is what this is looking like, we become absolutely obsolete. We don't matter. And they don't. The judicial system is one of the first things to go in fascism. We don't want you. We don't need you. And if you disagree with us, well, you might get deported, or God only knows what they'll do. So judicial system is something it's still there. It's still strong. There's hope. The other piece that I would definitely tell people who are from the States, yes, it's 4 years, but they every 2 years have elections again for whatever reason. So in 2 years, in 2026, I predict that we're going to see a Democratic landslide, because people are already scared of what they're saying. Because even though people told them, look, they have this whole plan, Project 2025 is a fascist plan. It's fascism to the core. People are like, nah, it's nothing. And here they are implementing Project 2025, like everything. So I take a lot of hope in that. I think, okay, we've got 2 years of this, and it's terrible and it's scary and it's frightening, but in 2 years, I think it's going to be a Democratic landslide again. And the Democratic Party, for the most part, in the United States, has not been corrupted, although we're seeing a few cracks where it's like, what? You just voted for what? But whatever. For the most part, I mean, AOC, she's a representative, House representative. She's young, she's dynamic, and she calls shit out, and she's awesome. And Jasmine Crockett, is, do you know her? Okay, so she's just fucking awesome, right? So we have people like that there that are like, and of course they're women, right? So they're kicking ass and taking names. So I take hope in that we've got some really, really heavy duty fighters in the Democratic Party and on the ground. And I think that's why, I think the reason why they're trying to silence or play with TikTok is because they know if we become a movement, if we start hitting the streets, which I think could happen, I hope happens actually, I hope. Like I see this stuff in Europe. Holy shit, man, when they hit the streets, they hit the streets. Awesome. That's what I want to see in the United States and Canada. Just enough. Like, so social media allows that stuff to happen even more, right? So we have, right as it stands right now, we still have power. We still have stuff we can do. So I take some hope in that. I really do.
And what about LGBT community? Any advice?
I think what gives me hope right now is seeing somebody like Jasmine Crockett, because I do watch TV and I'm a political junkie. I watch her in the House. I watch her talk, and she's like, she calls it out. She says, you guys are just using trans people as you're just demonizing trans people so that all the while you're giving tax breaks to really rich people. You've got like 5 of the biggest billionaires on the planet in your corner. So you're just using, and that's what they're doing, right? They're using us as a distraction. Look over there, look over there. And she calls that out in the House floor. So we have people that see the bigger picture, that see this is a ploy and this is what they want to do. And that's going to hurt all of us. And that's the picture. That's the point too that I'm trying to get through to people on my social platform is you think it's just us. It's not. Y'all are being affected. Like people were like, just whatever. They're not going to see prices of groceries go down. Housing prices are not going to go down. And that's what he promised. That's what Trump promised. All this stuff. He just lied. And I think this time around, I'm hoping that, especially now that he's doing deportations and all of those things, I'm hoping people start to realize, okay, yeah, we said we wanted this, but it's not working because now nobody's picking, there's no labor people to pick fruit. There's no, like, it's just such a big picture, right? And yeah, so I don't even know where I was started out here. Sorry. I think the hope is we're not the only ones that are seeing the bigger picture. It's not just trans people. Other people are seeing it too. And they have more power than us probably. And they're saying that out loud. They're saying this is bullshit. You're just using trans people as a scapegoat. So I take hope from that. I really do. So.
And probably that's the last question for today. You've mentioned there is hope for us. Is it that?
There is, and you know what the other piece where I take hope, I have done, I did a really big video early on about Anita Bryant, and it's literally since Anita Bryant, I don't know if you know who she is. she was a big anti-gay person in the 70s. She gained worldwide notoriety for her position. And then she became this, everybody hated her because she was a bigot. And everybody started to realize. And I think that's what's happening. When people come out as bigots and they say gay people, because she was doing the exact same thing. She was like, gay people are perverts. Gay people are after our children. That was her big thing. They're after our children.
Yeah, the same rhetorics.
Same message. And at first, it gained huge popularity. She was so popular. People loved her, blah, 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 blah. But then people started, but what that did is it caused the gay community to come out and say, hey, wait a minute. No, we're not. Fuck you. This is, and the gay community responded. And as a result of that conflict, people got to know people in the gay community. And they're like, holy shit, I know them. They're just like, that's my mailman. That's the woman that works at my corner store. And this phenomenon backfired on Anita Bryant and that whole movement because people were like, wait a minute, no, they're not. Like, they're not who you're saying they are. I know them. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. I think it already is. I think a lot of people are shifting over because they realize, wait a minute, I'm saying all this stupid stuff, but none of it is true. I've never seen or knowingly seen a suspect, weird, whatever, trans woman in any washroom I've ever been in my entire life. It's never happened. The only people that are these threats are cis white men. Those are the ones you need to watch out for. Right. So I think this movement, what it does, these movements, what they do is that we counter, and in that process, people get to actually know us people. They get to actually hear the counter argument, and eventually it becomes less and less powerful because they're just saying lies. It's all lies and demonizing, and it's boogies. There's a boogeyman in the corner. No, there isn't. So I personally think we're on the upside for us. I think people are getting educated. They're seeing us. They're saying that we're not freaks. They're saying that we marry, we have lives, we have children, we have, jobs. And that's all we care about, just like you. And I think the more that they demonize us and the more that gets proven as that's not reality, the more people that are like, you know what, I'm not buying into this anymore. So that's the hope. It's happened before in history. And that's why I think Anita Bryant that's why I wanted to focus on her. It was such a good example of that. I mean, Anita Bryant just died about a week and a half ago. And the thumbnail and whatever from my Anita Bryant video, we put that song, what's her name? She's really called Chapel Roan. We put one of her songs, I Told You So, onto it. It went from having like 30 views. The last time I checked this morning, it had 170,000 views. So that's, to me, is knowledge. That, to me, is like, I feel like even just a silly thumbnail, it's just a thumbnail, it's just a picture of her getting hit in the face with a pot. But people were like, oh, yeah, I really don't like her. Yeah, it's too bad. People were saying kind of nasty things. I'm glad she died. And like, I never wanted to say I'm glad someone died. But it gave me hope that seeing that, and it's still going. It's still going. Right? I get, 30,000 hits a day. It's like crazy. So yeah, those are the kinds of things we can take hope from, I think.
Danny, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm really glad I'm sorry, I feel like I did all the jogging and I didn't get to know you better, but
I guess that was our first, but definitely not the last meeting.
Okay.
I've enjoyed it so much. I felt so connected to you.
Yeah.
Despite the difference in countries, in age, and in genders, we're so connected.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this. This is really awesome.